John had always loved the bustling city of Chicago. He had grown up in one of the many neighborhoods that dotted the city, and he had always been fascinated by the sights and sounds that surrounded him. But as he grew older, John began to realize that there was something sinister lurking in the shadows of his beloved city. It started with the dreams. Every night, John would dream of a faceless figure that chased him through the dark alleys and abandoned buildings of Chicago. The figure was always just out of reach, and no matter how fast John ran, it seemed to draw closer and closer. At first, John tried to brush the dreams off as nothing more than his overactive imagination. But as the years went by, the dreams became more vivid, and the figure became more real. John began to see glimpses of it during the day, darting around corners and disappearing down alleyways. As John entered his teenage years, the nightmares intensified. He would wake up in a cold sweat, unable to shake the feeling that something was watching him. He started to avoid certain parts of the city, especially the older, more run-down neighborhoods where the buildings were tall and the shadows were deep. But no matter where he went, John couldn't escape the feeling that he was being followed. He started to see the faceless figure everywhere, lurking in the corners of his vision and taunting him with its presence. One day, John decided to confront his fears head-on. He went to the abandoned building where he had first seen the figure in his dreams and ventured inside. The air was thick with dust and the sound of dripping water, and John could feel his heart pounding in his chest. As he made his way deeper into the building, John realized that he was not alone. The figure was there, waiting for him in the shadows. John tried to run, but the figure was too fast. It cornered him in a dark room, and John saw, for the first time, its face. It was the face of a young boy, no older than John himself. But there was something wrong with the boy's eyes, something cold and lifeless that made John's blood run cold. In that moment, John realized that he had been haunted all these years by the ghost of a boy who had died in this very building, alone and forgotten. The faceless figure had been trying to communicate with him, to warn him of the danger that lurked in the shadows of Chicago. John never forgot the lesson he learned that day. He continued to live in the city, but he was more cautious, more aware of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface. And every time he saw a faceless figure in his dreams, he knew that it was his old friend, the ghost of the boy who had saved him from a fate worse than death. After his encounter with the ghost of the young boy, John became obsessed with learning more about the history of Chicago and the dark secrets that it held. He spent hours in the city's libraries and archives, poring over old records and newspaper articles, searching for any clue that might shed light on the mysteries that had haunted him for so long. As he delved deeper into the city's past, John began to uncover a pattern of violence and tragedy that stretched back decades. He discovered stories of unsolved murders, of vanished children, and of dark rituals performed in secret by cults and secret societies. Despite the fear that these revelations brought, John felt a strange sense of purpose. He realized that he had been given a gift, a chance to help the restless spirits of Chicago find peace. He began to explore the city's abandoned buildings and forgotten alleyways, searching for signs of the supernatural and the paranormal. In time, John became known as a kind of urban legend, a ghost hunter who dared to confront the darkness that lay hidden in the heart of Chicago. He helped countless people who were tormented by malevolent spirits, and he gained a reputation as someone who could be counted on to solve even the most inexplicable and terrifying mysteries. As the years passed, John never forgot the lessons that he had learned from the ghost of the young boy. He knew that the darkness would always be there, lurking just beneath the surface of the city that he loved. But he also knew that there was hope, that even the most terrifying specters could be banished by the light of truth and understanding. And so John continued his work, fearless and determined, always searching for the next mystery to solve, the next restless spirit to lay to rest. For him, there was no greater calling, no greater purpose, than to bring peace to the haunted streets of Chicago. As John continued his work as a ghost hunter, he was always cautious but never afraid. He had faced many malevolent spirits and had always emerged victorious, armed with his knowledge and his courage. But one night, everything changed. John was investigating an old building on the outskirts of Chicago, rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those who had died inside its walls. As he made his way through the dark corridors, his flashlight flickering, he heard a strange noise coming from the end of the hallway. He approached slowly, his heart pounding, and as he turned the corner, he saw it. The ghost of a young boy, just like the one who had haunted his dreams so many years ago, was standing there, waiting for him. John tried to back away, but the ghost advanced, its face twisted in anger and despair. Suddenly the lights flickered and went out, leaving John in complete darkness. Then, out of nowhere, the ghost appeared right in front of him, its eyes burning with a cold, lifeless fire. John screamed and tried to run, but the ghost was too fast. It chased him down the corridor, its footsteps echoing through the empty halls. John could feel its icy breath on his neck, and he knew that he was running out of time. Just as the ghost was about to catch him, John saw a glimmer of light coming from a nearby room. He made a dash for it, hoping to find a way out, but as he entered the room, the door slammed shut behind him, trapping him inside. In the darkness, John could hear the ghost's laughter, its voice echoing through the room like 1,000 screams. Suddenly, the lights flickered on, and John saw the ghost standing before him, its face twisted into a grotesque mask of rage and hate. John screamed and tried to run, but the ghost was too strong. It reached out with its cold, dead hands and grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. John struggled and gasped for air, but it was no use. The ghost tightened its grip, and John knew that he was going to die. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, there was a sudden burst of light, and the ghost vanished, its scream echoing through the halls. John fell to the ground, gasping for air, and he realized that he had been saved by the light of a nearby window. As he caught his breath, John knew that he had been lucky to escape with his life. He realized that there were some ghosts that even he couldn't defeat, some horrors that were too powerful for even the bravest of men. But he also knew that he would never give up, that he would always be searching for the truth, no matter how terrifying the journey might be. When John made it home, he reflected on how scary his day had been. John took a shower. After he finished his shower, John looked in the mirror, only to realize that he did not see himself looking back. The John we thought we knew never made it home that night.